Good day, one and all. I have a really cool piece of vintage video equipment to show you guys today. This is a Panasonic model AG-7350 Super VHS VCR. This belongs to the TV station. I am only borrowing it right now, which is a little bit of a bummer, but he wants to keep it around for now. But he did let me borrow it, which I'm really gracious for. I do not know when this was made. What little I have found so far seems to date this thing from 2000, but that seems really late. So in this video I'm going to dig a little bit deeper, see if I can find a data manufacturer somewhere. So this is a broadcast grade Super VHS VCR. I mean, Super VHS was barely broadcast grade to begin with. Of all the professional videotape formats, it's sort of at the bottom of the rung. But this machine was meant for that market nonetheless, or at least the professional market in general. And this one does work perfectly. The AG-7350, some of them like to have capacitors go bad in the capstan servo circuit, and some of them don't, and this is one which hasn't, which has survived without any problem, so that's great. I have not actually tested this yet beyond putting a tape in it and seeing that it plays and seems to work just fine, but I haven't actually hooked a monitor up yet to see if video's actually coming out, but I would assume that's the case. If not, I guess we'll find out in this video. But as you can see, there's quite a lot going on this machine. You've got a very nice vacuum fluorescent display right there. You have jog and shuttle controls. There's your tape transport controls. You have VU meters, that's really cool, and record level controls for both channels. For the linear track and the hi-fi stereo track, that's pretty cool. 2 microphone jacks for when you're recording. Headphone jack. Manual tracking along with separate slow tracking. That's your softer, sharp picture control. And then we have a bunch of switches right here. You have a switch to show whether the second VU meter is showing the channel 2 audio level or the tracking. So when you're setting the tracking, because it's manual tracking, you can actually use this VU meter and it goes up and down depending on how good your tracking is. That's pretty cool. Your audio monitor while you're recording, you can choose whether you're listening to channel 1, 2, or both. And you can choose whether to listen to the normal audio track or the hi-fi audio track. That's pretty cool. Likewise, with the audio output, you can choose whether the linear track or the hi-fi track is output. For the input, you can choose the line input, that's composite, or an S-video input. Sync, you can choose internal, external, or normal. And then this has what's called sensor recording, where it'll automatically start recording based on a certain trigger, whether it be a remote input or I suppose a video signal is what the video means there. And it's got a timer. You can choose whether it starts playing or recording when the timer triggers. And then whatever mode lock is. And then these buttons up here, I do not know what they do. We may find out in this video, or I may just skip over them. So that's that. Let me turn this thing on. Ooh, very nice. The VU meters and the tape transport controls have what appear to be orange LEDs lighting them up. And a very nice vacuum fluorescent display. You got the big S-VHS logo there. And it's multicolor. You got the blue, you got the green. And if I turn sensor on, you've even got red. Very cool. Today's video, if I haven't mentioned, is being filmed by the Sony DSR PD150, by the way. First YouTube video being filmed with this camcorder. So that is that. Let's go around the back. See what we got for jacks on the back. So that's your remote jack right there. You got a standard IEC connector for power. Rated 48 watts. This was made in Japan. This thing has Dolby noise reduction, which is pretty cool. So what do we got for inputs? We have S-Video, which is great. That's your composite input, external sync input. And then you can actually have separate audio inputs for the linear audio track or the hi-fi audio track. So if you want, you can be recording something onto the hi-fi track and then record something completely different to the linear track and then switch between them. That's pretty neat. Timecode input and output for hooking this thing up to other machines. Sensor remote input. You know what a use case for that would be? Probably for security purposes. Sensor could be a proximity sensor. Somebody walks by it in a hallway or whatever. This thing starts recording a security camera that's trained on them. So that's a use case for that. Audio monitor out for recording. And then you have your audio out. Again, you can have separate audio outputs for the linear audio or the hi-fi audio. Very cool. And then we have S-Video out and composite video out. Very nice. Not too many crazy broadcasty inputs or outputs on this thing. And then we got whatever this SCART looking remote jack is for. And that's about it. No date of manufacture on the sticker, which I thought Panasonic usually put on their professional grade stuff. So let's take the cover off this. There's 2 screws, and then the cover just lifts off. Easy to get in. And we're in. You can see that the circuitry is arranged in removable cards, which is very nice. And we have an empty slot here where on the higher end version of this VCR, the AG-7350, a time-based corrector would go. So this thing does not have a time-based corrector on board. So it's more of a lower end machine in that sense. There's your head drum, your audio, linear audio and control heads. Let's count how many heads on this head drum. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So some of those would be record heads, some of them playback heads, and some of those would be flying erase heads, since this is a machine that might be used for editing purposes. Other than that, it's not a very outlandish looking deck. It looks like a very normal VHS deck. There's your loading motor. Belt on it is still good. And if you look at the motor, it's got what looks like a date code on it that says 25 September 2000. And that's the only date code I've been able to find on this thing so far. So I think later in this video, we'll take a look at the bottom and see if we can find a date code for sure. So while we've got this open, I've got a VHS tape here. Let me toss it in here and we'll hear what this thing sounds like. Okay, so it loads the tape as soon as you put it in. But interestingly, when you rewind or fast forward, it unloads the tape. Observe, I'm going to hit fast forward here. Not very fast rewind or fast forward, but that's totally fine for a commercial grade machine. It's easier on the tape, and that's certainly more important. I'll hit rewind here. Very mild-mannered machine. It's so quiet and smooth in its operation. I'm really surprised. Especially compared to that Betacam VCR that's all buzzing and grinding and everything else. This thing's so polite in comparison. And there you can see it reloads the tape when it's done. Let me hit play here. We're now playing the tape. SP only. There's no way to change the tape speed here. And you can see here, Yep, that VU meter's doing the audio. And I don't believe there's any right channel audio on this. Oh yes, there is. So there's audio on both channels. But if I flip this switch up to tracking mode and fiddle with the tracking dial, you can see this is measuring the tracking. And there is an indent in the middle of the tracking, but that's just where you should put it when you're recording. It doesn't mean it's going to automatically track. But if I just get that off the indent, so that's the indent, and I can make it go a little bit higher. There, we're at maximum tracking now. Take a look at the display here. The S-VHS indicator has gone out because this is a normal VHS tape. We have a real-time tape counter. The symptom that these things will show when they have bad capacitors in the capstan servo circuit is the tape counter will not count, and the tape will constantly go in and out of tracking, even though you've got the tracking set. Basically, it acts like it's not getting any signal from the control head. And it's just like 3 or 4 capacitors on an easily accessible circuit board that need to be replaced, and it's good to go. And that's really all that goes wrong with these things. This is, on the whole, a very robust machine. Surprising considering how not robust some of Panasonic's other S-VHS machines were, particularly the AG-7350 and the AG-7350. Which are famous for just being riddled with bad capacitors. It's a several $100 job to get one restored. There is no direct forward or reverse search on this. If I just hit like fast forward, it's going to stop the tape and then go into full fast forward mode. But if I go into play mode, I can do forward search by hitting search, and then I just use the shuttle wheel. It's not as swift to respond as, for example, my Betacam VCR. It takes a couple of seconds to get into gear. Well, on the whole, it's pretty good. And it's variable speed, of course. If I put it in still mode here and start turning the jog dial, you can see it advance frame by frame. If I give the jog wheel a good spin, you can see it plays for a little bit and then stops. I can go backwards, just the same. Very cool. And you can see how the lights and the display changes there. Got little lights here too. Very nice. What an awesome machine. It's just so fun to use. I just got this yesterday. As you could probably guess, I haven't even learned about this thing yet. I don't know all the functions. To be fair, I'm kind of on a short time frame because I'm only borrowing this. So I'm not spending a ton of time to learn everything about it. We'll hit play here again, get it out of search mode. And she just counts along. There's not very many enunciators here, especially when you're just playing a normal VHS tape that doesn't have any hi-fi audio on it. That's about it. Hit stop. And I'll hit eject. Yeah, really nice. Very mild-mannered, smooth operating machine. Not super snappy in its operation, but very smooth and very polite is the best word that I can think of it. Alright, I've got my fake S-VHS cassette, my Memorex HS, which I drilled a hole into to trick VCRs into thinking it's S-VHS. Let's put it in the machine and do a recording test. I am going to hook this camcorder up through the S-Video, record onto the tape, and then we'll play the tape back into the camcorder to get it onto the computer. Let's see what the recording quality of this beast is like. We are now recording on the Panasonic AG-7350 S-VHS VCR from, I don't know when, 2000 maybe? That still seems late for me. We'll find out hopefully near the end of the video. But here it is. I have no idea what the quality is going to be like because this is my first time doing this. I can tell right now, I think the audio is getting a bit hot, so I'm going to turn it down here. I'll just turn down all four dials, and that seems to have tamed it down a bit. I don't think our tracking meter does anything. No, it does not. Record light lights up a nice bright red. All right. What a beautiful machine. It really is. I really like this thing. It doesn't terrify you too much with super complex broadcast functions. It's got a few things that I have yet to figure out. Like, does this do anything? Nah. Oh. Okay, those are repeat functions. Anyway, there it is. Wow, what a beautiful machine. Great quality. It's awesome. I'm just going to rewind it here. Eject, and I'll put the top cover back on and open up the bottom cover, see if we can find some date codes on stuff. I found something interesting, and it kind of makes sense. Of course, as we saw earlier, this thing has separate linear audio and hi-fi audio jacks on it. The linear audio jacks are multi-purpose. They can also be used for hi-fi audio. But something I learned is that if you recorded only onto the hi-fi track, or if you play back using hi-fi only audio, you won't hear any sound while you're in slow motion or fast motion. Whereas if there's linear audio available and you play back the linear audio, then you'll hear the audio while you're scrubbing or shuttling through. But you won't with the hi-fi audio, so that's kind of interesting. So, turn this thing off, put the cover back on, we'll see what lies underneath. Here's what's on the bottom. I've got a light here to see by. Can we find any date codes? I don't know. I think we need to flip this board open. I know this board opens up. This is the board that contains the capacitors that go bad on some of these machines. Now, how does it open? Do they just pull out? No. Is it these red screws? Now I get a look at the video I looked at where somebody repaired one of these. Alright, 3 red screws later, and this board should... Ah, yes. Alright. What? Oh, frick! This thing's got a NiCad battery on it! Oh, I didn't expect that! Oh no! Doesn't look like it's leaked, thank goodness. Is that corrosion or just... I think it's just gunk. Sticky gunk. Okay, I think this battery's okay. What is this? Nickel cadmium battery. 3 cells. 3.6 volts. Wow, I didn't expect that one. That must save settings or something. It's got to save something. Wow, I wonder if that's any good still. Probably not, because I don't think this thing's been plugged in for years before I get a hold of it. So as for date codes, what do we got here? Geez, I'm not seeing much. Oh, that looks like it might be 2000, 2000, 0020, 2000. I don't know. More signs are pointing to 2000, but I wouldn't have thought they would have made this that long. Oh, by the way, the capacitors that go bad, that often have to be replaced, are a few of the ones right around here. So they're all through-hole stuff, because good guy Panasonic. Although it is a double-layer board, so it can be difficult to extract the capacitors. God, not much stuff has a date code on here. Or if it does, I'm not decoding it. Actually, even that battery looks like it's got a date code. 0008? Wow! I think this thing was made in 2000. That's very surprising. Because I know I've heard of these being made as early as 1993. So Panasonic made this model for a number of years. Huh, neat. Well, there you go. And that, my friends, is the Panasonic AG-7350 Super VHS VCR from 2000. What a beautiful piece of equipment. Man, I wish this thing, if I owned this thing, this would be the piece de resistance of the white trash hi-fi stack, let me tell you. But alas, it's not mine, but I'm still really glad that I got to borrow this one and play with it a little bit and show it on YouTube. I've only had it for a day, but I'll probably return it tomorrow since, you know, there's nothing more to do with this thing since I can't keep it. I'm not going to make any tapes or anything. But there you go, a nice piece of equipment, and I hope you've enjoyed this little look at it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.